HOA demanded I unlock my gate, so I bought the road and blocked them forever the day it started. The air felt heavy. I opened the letter and the words burned into my eyes, "Unlock your gate," or "Face the board." I laughed at first, but their smile was not a smile. Every neighbor stared like they already knew. Notes on my door, warnings in my mailbox. The sound of tires on the road grew louder each night, like a threat. They thought they owned me, but they had no idea that the road they drive on was about to become my greatest weapon. Welcome to HOA Secrets Uncovered. I'm Daniel, a quiet guy who just wanted a peaceful life in a small suburban cul-de-sac. I work from home as a freelance designer. I keep to myself. I like my mornings slow and my evenings quiet. But when the HOA came for my gate, they woke a part of me even I didn't know existed. This is the story of how their power trip turned into my plan for ultimate revenge. The road outside my house was quiet when I hit record, morning light on wet asphalt, a soft wind moving the maple leaves like slow hands. I breathed in and tasted metal in the air, like rain and something else. A warning I could not name. I am Daniel. I live at the end of a small cul-de-sac, a line of neat lawns and strict smiles. I work from home. I design simple things on a laptop. Logos for bakeries, menus for coffee shops. I like order. I like gates that close. They told me to open my gate. They said it was for the good of the neighborhood. They said emergency access. They said community spirit. But their eyes told a different story. Hungry eyes, counting eyes. The first note was neat, typed and printed. "Please unlock the gate during daylight hours. Thank you for your cooperation." No signature, just the HOA seal in the corner. Like a stamp of power, like a brand on skin. I kept the gate closed. I like the click of the lock. I like the way sound. Lion. A thin word that cuts like wire. I got up and walked to the window. The moon was low. The road looked like a long, dark ribbon. I thought about how every house relies on it. Every car, every life pattern. Pickup trucks at 6 in the morning. School buses at 7. The president walking her tiny dog at 7:30. She does not pick up after it, but she writes letters about lawn height. I felt a laugh rise in my chest. It sounded wrong, like a cough trying to be a joke. The next morning I opened the gate for 1 minute. I let the air in. I let the sunlight hit the hinges. The metal looked like a blade. I checked the lock. I closed it. I heard the click. It felt like a heartbeat. My phone buzzed again. A fine. They were fast, like a vending machine for rage. I stopped by the mailbox cluster at the corner. 3 neighbors were there. A man with perfect hair, a woman with a visor and a face like a stapler, and the quiet guy from House 7 who never makes eye contact. The perfect hair man said, "You know you are holding us back." I said, "From what?" He said, "From our brand." He said, "Property value." He said, "The flow of the neighborhood." I said, "Flow of what?" "Cars, eyes, control." The woman in the visor shook her head. She said, "Rules are rules." She said, "Do you want chaos?" I thought about her yard. 12 bird feeders. Chaos is already here. But I did not say it. I said, "Thank you for your feedback." She hated that. Her mouth tightened. She looked like a knot. The quiet guy from House 7 kept staring at the road. He seemed scared of it, as if the road could hear us. That afternoon, a contractor truck parked near my driveway. 2 men took photos of my gate. One measured the distance from my curb to the lock. The other laughed and said, "They are serious about this one?" I stood on my porch and waved. He waved back. Then he pointed to the president who stood across the street with a C. Lipboard. Her cardigan today was blue. Her smile was sharp. She wrote notes while looking at my face. Not my gate, my face. Something inside me clicked the way the lock clicks. A new sound. A new thought. If they wanted my gate open, it was not because of safety. It was because a closed thing reminds them of a limit. Limits make people in power itch. They scratch with fines. They scratch with letters. They scratch until skin breaks. I went inside. I pulled out a folder with old papers from when I bought the house. Deed, survey, zoning map. There was a small drawing of the street, a dotted line through the cul-de-sac, a note in tiny print. Easement recorded. Owner maintained. Owner, not HOA. Owner of what? The map was old. The ink had faded like a bruise, healing slow, but the words were still there, owner maintained. I called the county records office. A woman answered with a voice like cold water, clear, no nonsense. I told her my parcel number. I told her my street. I told her about the dotted line. She put me on hold. A song played that sounded like a smile from a dentist. Then she came back. Her voice was almost interested. She said, "The road into your section is not a county road." I said, "Then what is it?" She said, "It was offered for dedication years ago, but the county did not accept. It appears to be private." My breath sat heavy in my chest, like a book I could not open. Private. The word rang in my head like a bell in a quiet church. Private road, but who owned it? She said the records were messy. She said the last listed holding company dissolved. She said tax bills were forwarded and returned. She said there might be a path, but I would need a title search. I thanked her. I ended the call. I stared at the map until the lines started to look like veins. That evening, the president sent a message to the whole neighborhood. I know because a neighbor forwarded it to me with 3 popcorn emojis. She wrote that some people, not team players, were making life hard for the community. She wrote that gates do not belong in open hearts. She wrote that unity requires visibility. She did not say my name. She did not need to. Everyone knows who the problem is when there is only one gate. I stood by my fence and listened to the road. The road has a voice if you stand long enough. It hums. It remembers every tire and every step. It knows old shoes and new ones. It knows the sound of people who think they cannot be stopped. It knows the weight of small dogs and big egos. I ran my hand over the rough wood of the fence. A splinter bit my finger. I sucked the blood. It tasted like pennies and patience. I could keep paying fines. I could unlock the gate and pretend this was over. But I felt something new growing in me. Not anger, not exactly. A neat idea, an idea that wears a tie and files paperwork. A quiet kind of storm. If the road was private, if nobody truly owned it now, if a thing is unclaimed long enough, sometimes you can claim it, sometimes you can buy it, sometimes you can turn the shape of power around with a signature. I sat at the table with my laptop. I searched records. I read old minutes from long-forgotten meetings. I found a name for the dead holding company. I found a list of assets at dissolution. The road had a number. Just a number, no poetry. But numbers can be doors. Numbers can be keys. I started a file. I named it Project Open Secret. I smiled at my own joke. I do that when I'm nervous. The next morning, the president returned. She brought 2 board members, one tall like a radio antenna, one short and round like a backyard grill. I stood at my gate and tried to look like law. They told me fines had begun. They told me liens were possible. They told me neighbors talk. They told me success was cooperation. I asked if they had read the easement. They blinked. The antenna one said, "We know the bylaws." I said, "I know something else, something older than your bylaws. Something printed in ink that does not care about cardigans." She laughed. A clean, hard laugh. She said, "Do your worst." I looked at the road behind her. I looked at the curve that leads home for everyone here. I felt the shape of my idea click into place. Not rage, not noise, just a lock turning in a larger door, calm and final. They left. Their footsteps sounded like staplers on the sidewalk. I went inside and made tea. I held the warm cup and stared at the map again. Owner maintained. Private section, dead company, loose ends. Loose ends can be braided if your hands are steady. Mine were steady now. I walked back to the gate. I touched the iron. Cool, solid, honest. The road purred with afternoon traffic. The neighborhood breathed its usual neat breath. But I could feel a change coming like a storm that does not shout, a storm that wears a suit, a storm that shakes hands and then closes a door. Tell me this, if an HOA demands you open your life, and you find out the ground under their feet might be yours to claim, do you hand them the key, or do you learn how to own the path they walk every day and make them knock first? The sky was pale with morning when the sound came. Not a bird, not a car, a small metallic ring that shivered through the air. I stepped onto the porch and felt the chill of dew on the wooden planks. The gate stood silent, but something was different. A red ribbon tied around the lock. Neat. Perfect. A bow like a child would make for a gift. No note, no name, just that ribbon. It fluttered in the breeze like a quiet dare. I looked up and down the street. Empty. No joggers, no dogs. Only the president's blue sedan parked 3 houses down. A glint of sun on the windshield. Someone watching. Maybe, maybe not. I untied the ribbon. The knot slipped too easily, like it had been practiced. Underneath, the lock was scratched. Fine little cuts like someone had tested a key. My stomach tightened. I checked the latch. Still strong, still mine. I went back inside. The house smelled of coffee and old pine, but the quiet was not soft anymore. It pressed against the walls. Heavy. Listening. The email came while I poured my second cup. Subject: community reminder. All gates must remain open. Failure to comply will lead to formal action. Signed. The board, not a person. A wall of faceless letters. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. My phone buzzed again. Another message. Anonymous. Locks break. 2 words. No signature. No number. I stepped outside again. The street looked the same, but every house felt like an eye. Curtains moved. Or maybe I imagined it. A car door closed far away. A soft slam that echoed like a hammer. I heard the faint whir of a lawnmower starting up. Too early for mowing. Too loud for comfort. I walked to the gate, ran my hand over the cool iron. The scratches were real. Not imagination. A key had touched this. Someone wanted in. I thought of the woman at the records office, her clear voice, private road, no owner, no county claim, an open door in the law, a path waiting for a name. If they were willing to scratch a lock, what would they do if I stayed silent, if I kept the gate closed, if I made the road mine? That thought pulsed like a heartbeat, steady, strong. A plan forming in the quiet corners of my mind. I went to my desk and opened the fold. Dare again. Old maps, old letters, every line of ink a clue, every number a key. The holding company's name looked faded, but the tax ID was still there. I searched county archives. I found a contact for a lawyer who specialized in abandoned property. His office was 2 towns over. Reviews said he liked puzzles. I like puzzles too. I called. A voice answered, gravel and warmth mixed together. He listened. He did not laugh. He said, "That road might be yours if you want it. We can trace the deed. We can make an offer." I said, "How long?" He said, "Weeks, maybe months. If no one fights, no one will fight." People forget things that are not shiny anymore. My chest filled with a quiet kind of energy. Not excitement, not fear. Something sharper, something that moves without asking permission. That evening I walked the road when the sun dipped low. Each driveway hummed with small sounds. A dog whining behind a fence. Children's laughter leaking through a half-open window. The smell of someone grilling meat. Life moving on, unaware. I reached the bend where the cul-de-sac curls back on itself. The streetlight flickered like a nervous eye. The pavement felt like it belonged to no one, but it spoke to me, low and steady, like it was waiting. I crouched and touched the asphalt, warm from the day, grainy under my fingers. A road is just dirt and stone and tar, but it holds every step, every secret. Behind me a door creaked. I turned, house 7. The quiet man stepped onto his porch. He lifted a hand, a slow wave. I raised mine. He nodded once, then went back inside. No words, just a nod, as if he already knew. The night came heavy and fast. The street settled into its usual hush. Her cheeks flushed, color rising like a slow fire. She turned sharply. "We will see you in court." Their shoes clicked on the pavement as they walked away. Each step sounded like a threat dressed in Sunday clothes. I watched them disappear around the curve, the road beneath them glowing in the noon light. And I thought, maybe soon every step they take will carry my name. That evening, the lawyer called, his voice calm. "The first filings are in, no contest so far. Within a week we can move to purchase." He paused. "But you must understand, once we start, There is no turning back. I looked at the map spread across my table, the dotted line of the private road, the tiny print that said owner maintained, a forgotten detail, now a weapon. I said, start everything. When the sun set, the cul-de-sac shifted into its usual quiet, children inside, sprinklers clicking, curtains drawn, but the quiet felt different. It hummed like a wire just before it snaps. I walked the road again, barefoot this time. The asphalt warm from the day, grainy beneath my feet. Each house seemed to lean toward me, listening. The air thick with the smell of watered lawns, and something metallic, like the scent before a storm. A door creaked open behind me. House 7. The quiet man again. He stepped out with his dog, a small gray mutt. He nodded once. His eyes met mine for the first time. Steady, knowing, he said. They do not like when they cannot control something. His voice was low, like a secret shared with the night. I asked, you too? He shrugged. They fined me for a bird feeder once. I added more feeders. A small smile touched his mouth. Then he turned and walked his dog down the curve of the road, as if the conversation never happened. I stood there a long time. The stars came out, one by one, sharp and cold above the dark roofs. A breeze moved the trees. The leaves whispered like old paper. I imagined the board sit, ting in their tidy living rooms, planning their next letter, their next threat, unaware that the ground under their tires was slipping from their hands. I felt the plan settle deeper inside me. Not a rush, not a sudden burst, just a slow and certain weight, like a door closing softly but forever. The next morning, no notes on my door, no emails, only silence, a silence heavy enough to taste. I brewed coffee and stood at the window. The road stretched out like a dark ribbon, waiting. If they thought silence would scare me, they were wrong. It only made me wonder, when people who live for control feel it slipping away, what will they do next? Will they fight louder, or will they break quietly while pretending to smile? A soft knock came at dawn, not on the door, on the gate. 3 slow taps, a pause, 3 more. I froze with the coffee mug halfway to my lips. The sound of those taps slid through the air like a blade through cloth. I set the mug down and stepped to the porch. The sky was still gray. A thin mist curled along the road. The gate stood closed, no one there. I waited, listened. Only the faint hiss of sprinklers 2 streets over. But the metal bars were cold as I touched them, colder than the morning air. I checked the lock, still in place, no scratches. But a small scrap of paper clung to the hinge, no tape, no pin, just damp enough to stick. I peeled it off. 2 words scrawled in black marker, we know. My chest tightened. I turned in a slow circle. Windows along the street glowed with soft yellow light. Curtains moved, or maybe it was my nerves, but I felt it. Eyes. I went back inside. The silence followed me like a second shadow. Another email waited on the screen. No subject line this time, just text. You cannot hide behind that gate forever. No name, no signature. The message time stamped at 4:12 a.m. I read it twice, my stomach twisted. Not from fear, from recognition. They were starting to guess. I called the lawyer. He answered on the first ring, his voice rough with sleep. I told him about the note, the email. He exhaled a slow breath. They are watching you now, he said. They will push harder before they fall. He told me the paperwork was nearly complete. The county had no objections. The old holding company had no heirs. The road would be mine within days. Days! The word burned like a hidden ember. When I stepped outside again, the mist had thickened. The world looked softer, but the silence was sharp. A door opened behind me. The quiet man from House 7 stepped out. His dog trotted to the edge of the lawn. He raised a hand. I raised mine. He said, "They do this when they feel it slipping." His voice barely above the mist. "They leave notes. They make noise in the dark." I asked how he knew. He smiled without teeth. "They fined me for a cracked flower pot. I told them to prove it. They left me letters for weeks. Then they stopped." His dog sniffed the grass. He looked at me. "You have something bigger than a flower pot." I did not answer. He already knew. Later that afternoon, the president came herself. No board members, just her, a white cardigan now, a clipboard tucked under one arm. She stood at the gate, hands folded, a smile that did not reach her eyes. "I heard you have hired counsel," she said. "Do you really want to make this difficult?" Her voice was honey poured over steel. I said nothing. She stepped closer, the perfume of sweet chalk again. "You know we can make life here unpleasant." Her eyes flicked to the camera on my porch, then back to me. I said, "Do you know who owns this road?" A twitch at the corner of her mouth, barely there, but I saw it. "The association maintains it," she said, her voice harder now. "It belongs to the neighborhood." "Maintaining," I said, "is not the same as owning for—" The first time her smile cracked, she gripped the clipboard tighter, her knuckles pale. "You are playing a dangerous game," she said. Then she turned, her shoes clicked sharp against the pavement, each step a spark in the mist. I watched her until the bend swallowed her. The road glowed faintly in the late sun, like it was waiting to be claimed. That night the sound returned, 3 taps on the gate, a pause, 3 more. I switched on the porch light. The street lay empty. Still, I stepped closer. The iron felt colder than before. A small card rested on the top bar, printed in bold black letters. "Open the gate. Last chance." No signature, no explanation. I felt the strange calm of someone standing in a storm. Not fear, something heavier, something that does not move. I tore the card in half. The sound was small, but it felt like thunder. Inside, I opened the lawyer's email again. He had sent the draft deed, my name printed in clean black letters, the legal description of the road, every foot of asphalt, every curve, every hidden crack, mine. I signed, scanned, sent it back. Outside, the wind rose, leaves rustled like whispers, the gate hummed against the night air. The quiet man texted me for the first time, a number I had not saved. "They will not stop until they see you cannot be moved," he wrote. "Do not blink first." I replied, "I will not." He answered with a single word, "Good." I slept with the window open. The night air smelled of rain and cut grass. I listened for the taps. None came. Morning broke slow and pale. I stepped outside. The road stretched empty and dark. A lone crow perched on the streetlight. Its wings glistened like black glass. I thought of the board meeting tonight. They would gather in the community room. They would whisper and plan, and soon they would learn. The ground beneath their feet, the road beneath their tires, was no longer theirs. I ran my hand across the gate, the iron steady, the lock cold and strong. The storm rolled in before sunrise. Not lightning, not rain. A storm made of whispers, phones buzzing, garage doors creaking, a low, restless hum across the cul-de-sac. I felt it before I even opened my eyes, like the air itself was waiting for something to break. I stepped onto the porch and tasted the damp, the sky a dull silver, the road dark and slick like polished stone. No cars moved, but curtains twitched, shadows shifted behind glass. I checked my phone, a message from the lawyer, short, precise. "It is done." 3 words, that was all. 3 words heavier than thunder. The deed was filed. The road was mine. I stood at the gate and let the morning wind hit my face. Every inch of asphalt beyond the iron bars, every crack and faded line, every wheel track from their polished SUVs, mine. The sound of a door slammed across the street. The president stepped out, blue cardigan today, hair pinned tight, her eyes sharp as broken ice. She held her phone like a weapon. Her tiny dog yapped once and fell silent. She didn't wave, she just watched. I smiled, a slow, quiet smile, the kind that carries a secret. Her lips tightened. She turned and marched toward House 4. I could hear the hiss of her words even from here, low, fast, urgent. Within an hour, the cul-de-sac was alive, men with coffee cups standing at driveways, women in visors whispering over hedges, children sent back indoors. A neighborhood on edge without knowing why. I brewed coffee and sat by the window, the mug warm against my hands. I watched the road the way a hunter watches a trail. Calm, patient, another buzz on my phone. A new email, this one from the board, all caps in the subject line. Mandatory meeting tonight. The message below was sharp and frantic. Community emergency. Attendance required. 8 p.m. No exceptions. They did know. It say my name. They did not have to. I closed the laptop and let the silence stretch. The quiet man from House 7 walked past with his dog. He looked up and gave a slow nod. His eyes held the kind of knowledge that needs no words. Afternoon slid in heavy and bright. The sky threatening rain but never delivering. The air thick, charged. Around 3 a car pulled into my driveway. A black sedan. The lawyer stepped out. Tall, gray suit, eyes like polished stone. He shook my hand, his grip firm and cool. "It's official," he said. "The road is legally yours." He handed me a thin folder. Inside lay the fresh deed. My name printed in bold, clean letters. The legal description of every foot of pavement. I traced the words with my finger, the weight of them sinking like a stone in water. "This," he said quietly, "changes everything." I asked what comes next. He smiled. "Next is whatever you choose." His car disappeared down the curve, leaving only the faint scent of rain and gasoline. I walked the road slowly, barefoot again, the asphalt warm from the weak sun, each step a quiet claim, each grain of gravel a small victory. At the far bend, I stopped and turned back. Every house looked different now, not bigger, not smaller, just shifted, like pieces on a board waiting for a move they do not understand. Evening came with a restless wind. Clouds piled like dark mountains above the roofs. One by one porch lights flicked on. The cul-de-sac glowed like a circle of small fires. I dressed in a plain black shirt. I walked to the community hall. The sound of my steps echoed off the damp pavement, a sound that no one else heard the way I heard it. Inside the hall, the board sat stiff behind a long table, the president in her blue cardigan, the antenna man, and the round one beside her. A row of neighbors filled the chairs, faces tight with curiosity and fear. The president tapped the microphone. Her voice wavered just enough for me to notice. "We are here tonight," she began, "because certain actions have threatened the harmony of our neighborhood." Her eyes locked on mine. "A resident," she said, "has chosen to defy our bylaws and create division." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered my name. I stayed silent, hands folded, breath steady. She continued, "Property values are at stake. Safety is at stake. This is not who we are." I stood slowly. The room quieted like someone had turned off the air. "I have something to share," I said, my voice low but clear. I held up the folder. The deed gleamed under the fluorescent light. "This," I said, "is the legal ownership of the road you drive on every day. The road you believe belongs to the association. It does not. It belongs to me." Gasps cut through the hall. The antenna man stiffened. The round man's mouth fell open. The president's face drained of color. Her fingers gripped the table like claws. "This is a private road," I continued. "Effective today, I hold all rights of access." A woman in the back whispered, "What does that mean for us?" I looked at her. "It means your HOA cannot threaten me, and it means your HOA cannot threaten you. Not with this road." The president tried to speak. Her words tangled. You can't." "I can," I said. And I did. Silence filled the hall. Thick, electric. The kind of silence that changes everything. I turned and walked out. The door shut behind me with a soft thud. Outside, the night air felt cool and alive. The road stretched before me. Mine, completely mine. The quiet man from House 7 waited near the gate. His dog sat at his feet. He smiled. "They never saw it coming," he said. "No," I replied. "They never do." A single drop of rain landed on my hand, then another. The storm finally breaking. I looked at the road. The slick asphalt reflected the streetlights like a dark mire. Roar. A ribbon of power under my feet. Rain began before midnight. Not a gentle drizzle. A hard, steady rain that soaked the road until it gleamed like black glass. I stood at the window and watched the water slide along the curve, each drop a small drumbeat, each drumbeat a reminder. This road is mine now. The streetlights flickered, a pale gold glow over the wet pavement. The sound of the rain drowned everything else. But somewhere beneath it, I thought I heard footsteps. I opened the door and stepped onto the porch. Cold mist wrapped around me. The air smelled of wet leaves and iron. The gate stood strong. Drops of water streaked down its bars like thin silver wires. No one was there. But a single envelope rested at the bottom of the gate, soaked, edges curling. I picked it up. The paper clung to my fingers like a living thing. Inside, a single sheet. The handwriting sharp and quick. This is not over. No name. No signature. The ink bled slightly from the rain, but the threat was clear. I smiled without meaning to. Not a happy smile, a quiet one. The kind that comes when you know the next move is yours. I placed the note on the kitchen counter, let the rainwater drip onto the tile, and poured myself a cup of coffee. The steam rose like a slow ghost. My phone buzzed. A text from the lawyer. Deed recorded officially, county database updated, final, permanent, unshakable. I stared at the message until the words blurred. Then I walked back to the window. The rain had eased. The road glowed beneath the streetlights, a ribbon of dark power waiting to be claimed again. At dawn, the storm broke. The sky turned a hard blue. Sunlight spilled across the wet asphalt. Steam curled up like smoke from a sleeping dragon. Neighbors emerged slowly, opening garage doors, dragging trash bins. But their eyes kept flicking toward my gate, toward the road. Whispers drifted through the air, thin, uneasy. The president walked her tiny dog as if nothing had changed, but her steps were stiff, her gaze never met mine, her smile was gone. I leaned against the gate, let the morning sun warm my back. I could feel their tension like static electricity. A black SUV slowed as it passed. The driver, a stranger, windows tinted. It paused a heartbeat too long, then rolled away. I felt the hair rise on my arms. Late morning brought another email, this one from the HOA board. Polite, too polite. We request a private meeting to discuss the future of our community. We value cooperation and hope for an amicable solution. I read it twice. Their words tasted like sugar hiding broken glass. I replied with one line, I will listen. At my gate, sunset. The sun slid low by evening, a red gold burn across the rooftops. The air smelled of damp earth and fresh-cut grass. I waited by the gate. The president arrived first. No cardigan this time, a gray suit jacket that tried too hard. Her tiny dog left at home. The antenna man followed, jaw tight, eyes wary. The round man came last, his face pale, hands tucked into his pockets. They stood on the other side of the gate. Not one of them reached for the latch. The president cleared her throat, her voice softer than I had ever heard it. We may have acted in haste, she said. We believe we can find common ground if we work together. I watched their faces, the same people who had fined me, threatened me, left notes and cards like knives in the dark. I said nothing. The antenna man shifted, his voice low. The road is important to all of us. We need access. We need understanding. I let the silence stretch, long enough for the evening crickets to start their song. Finally I spoke. You wanted my gate open. You wanted control. Now you need my road. The president swallowed hard. Her eyes flicked to the lawyer's envelope I held in my hand. She said, we are prepared to negotiate. The word sounded strange in her mouth, like she had never said it before. I stepped closer, the bars of the gate cold against my palm. What do you offer? I asked. The round man spoke for the first time. "We can drop all fines, amend the bylaws, guarantee your privacy." I let the quiet grow again. Then I asked, "Will you admit you were wrong?" They glanced at each other. The president's jaw tightened. Finally she said, "Yes, we were wrong." Her voice cracked slightly on the last word. I nodded once, slow, deliberate. "Then here are my terms," I said. "My gate stays locked. My property remains mine. And you will put it in writing that the HOA has no claim on this road." The antenna man shifted uneasily. The president hesitated. Then she lowered her head. "Agreed," she whispered. I unlocked the gate, not to open it, only to slide a single sheet of paper through the bars, a draft agreement prepared by the lawyer. "Sign it," I said, "and I will allow continued access to the road." The round man produced a pen, hands trembling. They each signed, the president last, her signature sharp and small. I took the paper back, locked the gate again. The click of the lock echoed like a final bell. The president looked at me, her eyes searching for something she could not find. Control, power, both gone. "We will honor this," she said quietly. Then she turned. The three of them walked back down the road, their steps slow, heavy, changed. I stood alone as the last light faded. The road hummed beneath the weight of night, mine in name, mine in power. The quiet man from House 7 appeared from the shadows, his dog at his side. He smiled. "Looks like the game is over," he said. "Not a game," I replied. "A lesson." He nodded. The kind they will never forget. The crickets sang louder. The air cooled. The road stretched into the dark like a silent promise. Moonlight spilled over the cul-de-sac like silver dust. The road gleamed beneath it, quiet, still, mine. I stood at the gate long after the last porch light went dark. The air smelled of wet earth and the faint sweetness of cut grass. Each house slept under a sky full of slow-moving clouds, but the night was not empty. It was heavy with something else, something I could feel in the bones of the road. I ran my fingers along the iron bars. The lock clicked softly when I touched it, not open, just alive, as if the metal itself remembered the fight that had shaped it. The paper they signed rested in my pocket, their three signatures dark and certain, ink that could not be taken back. Behind me the house glowed with a single lamp, warm and steady. The quiet man from House 7 leaned against his fence, his dog at his feet. The animal's eyes shone like two tiny lanterns. "You changed everything," he said, his voice low, almost lost to the crickets. "Did I?" I asked. It came out more like a thought than a question. "They will never forget," he said. "They will smile, they will wave, but they will never forget." He scratched the dog's ears, then melted back into his yard. The gate between us and the rest of the neighborhood seemed to breathe with the night. I walked the length of the road slowly, barefoot, the asphalt cool and damp, every step a quiet claim, every shadow a witness. I passed house after house, each one a square of sleeping secrets, curtains pulled tight, lawns trimmed to regulation, the perfection of people who believe they are safe. I thought of the first letter, the fake smile, the fines, the quiet threats, and how each of them had led me here, to this dark ribbon of pavement, mine to the last grain of gravel. The wind shifted, leaves rustled like whispers, somewhere a door creaked open. I turned, but saw only the faint glow of a kitchen light. A shadow moved across it, then disappeared. I smiled to myself, not a grin, a small slow curve, because I knew what they felt now. That restless weight, the weight of knowing that what you stand on, what you rely on, can belong to someone else. At the bend near the streetlight, I crouched and touched the wet surface. The road hummed beneath my palm, a deep, quiet hum, not of traffic, not of machines, but of memory. This pavement had carried their lives for years, morning commutes, evening strolls, birthday parties, arguments, first kisses in parked cars, and now every memory rested on a deed that bore my name. A sound of tires on wet asphalt broke the hush, a car easing around the far corner. Headlights cut through the night. It slowed as it reached me. A black sedan, tinted windows, the driver lowered the glass. The HOA president, her face pale in the moonlight, her tiny dog absent, her eyes searching mine. For a long moment neither of us spoke. Only the rain dripping from the trees filled the air. Finally she said, "You could have destroyed us." Her voice carried no anger, only a thin thread of something else. Something close to wonder. I said nothing. The night said enough. She looked at the road beneath us. Her gaze lingered on the slick black surface. Then she raised her eyes again. "You hold every key now," she said. "We will keep our word. We will follow the agreement." Her words trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of knowing. I nodded once, slow and deliberate. She closed the window. The car rolled away. Its taillights faded into the dark like two dying embers. I stood in the quiet again, the road steaming faintly in the moonlight. A ribbon of power no one could see but everyone could feel. When I reached the gate, I paused. The house stood silent, safe, the iron bars cool beneath my hand. I locked the gate with a single firm click, a sound that carried across the sleeping street, a sound like a final sentence. Inside, I set the signed agreement on the table, the paper dry now, the ink black and permanent. I poured a glass of water, watched the moonlight slide across the floor. This was never about revenge, not really. It was about limits, about the quiet power of saying no, and making that no impossible to ignore. Outside the road lay under the moon, waiting for the next set of tires, the next quiet morning, the next small act of suburban life. And every time a wheel rolls across it, every time a shoe scuffs its surface, it will whisper a truth they cannot forget. I own the ground beneath their feet.